Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to the Brew Sustainability webinar. We're very happy to share this webinar with you. Sustainability is very close to our hearts at Brew, and it's important that we share what we're doing as far as sustainability is concerned and share it with the wider community, not just our customers, but also our employees, our agents, our suppliers, and our business partners. And I will be introducing Jason Neiman, my brother and CEO of Brew Textiles, and he's going to speak about the following subjects as we go through the webinar. So these will be the things you can take away with yourself. So firstly, he'll discuss our vision and commitment on sustainability. He will discuss how we define that strategy, so how we actually built it. He will discuss the governance framework that we are using to make sure that we're sticking to our objectives. He'll also discuss the key metrics we've used to calculate our carbon footprint, and then the subsequent actions we are taking to make ourselves a cleaner, greener company. We'll also be discussing our sustainability focus areas. And lastly, we'll be sharing with you what we've learned so far. And without further ado, I'll hand you over to Jason.
First thing we want to do when we start to talk about sustainability, we want to actually talk to all of you about where our journey started, how we got to where we are today, and frame in a more holistic way how we see sustainability. Sustainability is a word on a lot of everybody's mouths these days. It's a topic in boardrooms, it's a topic on TVs, it's a topic on all media channels. And we decided as a company, in order to come up with the right vision on sustainability, we first need to define ourselves. What does sustainability mean to us? There's a lot of readings you can do out there, a lot of diverse opinions or strategies on how one can approach it. But we had to make something that was easy for us to understand, easy for our community to understand. And today we want to share with everybody first how we look at sustainability. So sustainability is not only about focusing on the climate and the environment, which is the main focus that a lot of people are doing today, and it's one of the most important parts of it. But we see sustainability as having three main pillars to what we define as our sustainability vision. And we split those pillars into three distinct areas. What are those? What are those three key areas? We talk about economic sustainability. Economic sustainability is the financial performance of a company in order to be sustainable. Even when we talk about the environment and social areas, having strong economic backbone to what we are doing and continue to have a strong financial strength is an important part of sustainability. We also look at the social part of sustainability. That's our staff, the community, and the wider, let's say, population on our planet, if we're going to really look at the big picture. And then the third component, which we focus on quite heavily today, is the environmental aspects of sustainability. Now, in the graphic we have in front of us, we see that all these three components of sustainability are heavily interlinked with each other. The economic activities are related to social in terms of the products and services they supply. You've got to look at the labor that impacts the work, and without jobs, there's no companies. Without companies, there's no jobs. Without jobs, there's no ability to earn money to live and to have a comfortable lifestyle, and how these all interrelate to each other is quite a diverse web of everything is connected. And that's the same thing goes, let's say, from the environmental point of view, where everything we consume in this world today somehow is delivered from the natural resources out there. So I'm not here to just try and educate everybody on how the whole world works, but when you look at sustainability, we look at it in those key areas. If we look at, more importantly, the environment, which we cover on quite heavily today, the first step is actually believing that there is a problem. There's no point in doing sustainability just because from a marketing point of view, we need to do it, or from a business aspect, or the corporate world, or everybody are saying, okay, you've got to be sustainable, you've got to push your sustainability vision within your company. And it's really important for us is, if we're going to do sustainability, we have to do it for the right reason. And we came up with our own conclusions in ourselves. We believe that there are issues in the world in terms of global warming and other depletion of natural resources. It's hard to put specific facts behind it because there's so many different contradicting facts. But the first step, what one has to do, is really believe there is a problem. And that's what we've done at Brew. And we do believe that the environmental issues that you hear about are real. And we as a company need to take action. And all of the companies we work with, we want them to take action. Because if we all take action together, we have a stronger chance of actually making a collective difference. The second most important thing as part of our sustainability vision is we have to also have the mindset that don't think somebody else is going to solve the problem. That was a very important lesson we learned along the way, that we need to take our responsibility, and actually everybody needs to take their responsibility and not think somebody else is going to fix it. So the point of what we are doing today, and the reason why we want to share with our customers, our suppliers, and other business relationships are, can we help everybody identify what sustainability means, what it means to us, and share our learnings. Global warming is widely recognized as one of the major threats for the generations that will follow. On top of that, the population around the world is growing very fast, which will naturally have an impact on our planet and the availability of resources. So even if we just stood still today and carried on the way we are doing, the natural effect of population growth will accelerate all these effects that we have on the planet and create other social and economic issues that need to be solved. So that's simply how we look at it. And the biggest message we want to get across when we talk about sustainability and the three pillars of economic, social, and environment are that they're all interlinked, and it doesn't mean you have to save one at the cost of another, or you have to sacrifice one. We have to find the balance within our organization and in our strategy, where we look at the best fit of the social aspects, the environmental aspects, the economic aspects, and find that sweet spot which will benefit our company and take us to the right steps within our organization to put in the right practices to solve the different issues aligned with these pillars. So our company's vision today is aligned with trying to create the right balance on these three aspects, and then deliver a really strong sustainability story for ourselves and our partners. So each one of these pillars actually contradict each other to some degrees, but when you start slicing it up and looking how it all works together, there can be a lot of advantages to businesses by looking at all three of these together. So the next step is, what is the relevance of this to us and our businesses? Very important that we have business value to anything we do in sustainability. For us, sustainability isn't a marketing a job for the marketing team. We have to live sustainability within our organization, and as part of that, we have to look at, well, how can we use sustainability to improve our business and make a better organization, better products, altogether. And if we looked at how we wanted to actually classify this, we've split it into 4 different segments of why should businesses really be focusing on it. We look at the short term, we look at the long term, and we look at both inside operations and, let's say, outside activities to the market. So if we start at looking at sustainability, we can use sustainability to actually create innovation within our business. That's where we look at new business ideas off the back of sustainability. When you look at new activities you participate in, we have to look at what other business opportunities will derive from it. So we're not going to give specific examples today, but that's something now that sustainability becomes part of our whole innovation view in our business, and we have to combine those aspects together. Reduce costs, having efficient internal operations together with saving waste on all different aspects of your business. You've actually got to look at it as an opportunity to reduce costs rather than let it be a cost driver. And that's something we are doing every day at Brew. How do we reduce costs, waste less raw materials, waste less on different aspects of the business, and how can it save money to the company? The third aspect is anticipate risks. There are a few risks that we really need to consider. One we spoke about earlier briefly was the resource scarcity on the planet. We talk about water scarcity, we talk about farming land scarcity, we talk about energy scarcity, something which is a hot topic these days. So those are some of the risks that one has to anticipate, and how our sustainability mission can help us anticipate those risks. We also believe that legislation will come in many parts of the world in the future. There's lots of talks at governmental level. Whether we like legislation or not, that's not important. That's not up for debate. But if legislation comes towards sustainability metrics at businesses, or compliance or reporting that one has to do, and we're already seeing businesses over a certain size have some sort of, let's say, they have some, I've lost the word, but they have to be able to report on certain sustainability activities taking place in the business. And you see also at in the bigger corporate world, the carbon tax notion is being discussed at many levels. So that's really also another reason why we want to front run any anticipated risks that will come in the future in terms of legislation, etc., around sustainability metrics. The third part, which benefits all businesses, is creating a long-term better brand. So today, the new generations are much more, let's say, aware of the sustainability issues around the world, environmental issues. Obviously, we learn a lot by our education. Environmental impact is a big part of the next generation's education. So they come into the business world and their adult life with the idea and being educated around these aspects. So all these together, we believe sustainability is very relevant for the business. This is not us trying to do the 101 of what sustainability is. It's more about us trying to help unpack of how we put it all together. And that's our introduction to why is sustainability important and why we need to create a vision for the longer term benefit of our company, our customers, and our suppliers. So I'm going to hand you over to Gary, who will have a quick question for you guys. Thanks for being patient on the introduction. That's probably the longest part of the webinar.
Thank you, Brew. Okay, thank you, Brew. The first question today on the poll is, do you think being sustainable will save your business money? It's a yes or no answer. There's no right or wrong answer. So just
you can just reply in the actual chat where the poll is, or on the actual poll itself. Just confirm everybody can see the poll. And we'll just wait for people to start filling it in. We've already got over 100 people who've answered the poll. And it seems the overwhelming majority think it's going to save the company money. And there is a small minority that says that it's not going to save the company money. Anyway, the future will tell. And hopefully by the end of this webinar, we'll be able to get a bit of an idea of how we see things going. I think we've had about 150 responses, so we'll just move on to our next keynote speaker, and that will be Steph from Futureproof. Steph has been part of the consultancy team. They're actually our partners and collaborators in our sustainability strategy and commitment. And Steph, please take over, and we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, thanks, Gary. Good morning, everybody. Great to see such a big turn up to this webinar. Great to see that a lot of people are enthusiastic about this topic. So I'm Steph, as Gary mentioned. I'm part of Futureproofed. Futureproofed is a Belgium-based consultancy firm within the field of sustainability. We work both for cities and for businesses, which we want to guide towards a more sustainable future. Sajid Geldro, who you can see on the slide, is our CEO, the founder of the company, who was one of the climate ambassadors of Al Gore. So he's really been at the forefront of climate action and sustainability action already for over 15 years. In the past years, we've been developing some software to help both cities and companies to map their impact on sustainability, more specifically climate, to create a roadmap to reduce that impact and to really start to take action. But next to the software, we keep offering, of course, also expert advice, hence our tagline, a human approach to climate tech. Now, within this context, of course, well over a year ago, in the beginning of 2021, we started to work with Bru Textiles. And actually, from the very beginning, we got to know Bru to be very eager and committed to the topic. There were already some great actions taking place within Bru. Think about, for example, the digital sampling. But there was some need for some overall guidance on how to focus within the sustainability, because as Gary and Jason have mentioned, sustainability is quite big. So we need to focus a bit on what matters most. And this is where Futureproof to help Bru to define a broader vision within sustainability, which you will be learning about in the coming webinar. Also get some more detailed insights in the carbon footprint. So really looking at the carbon impact throughout the whole value chain. And next to that, we also help to communicate, in which we not only focus on the good, all the good actions which Bru has been taken, but we also try to communicate about the bad, what negative impact still remains, and what do we as Bru want to do to reduce that negative impact. Through our work together, which is often through a series of hands-on workshops, we often have quite some rigorous debate. I think we like to challenge each other there. But we got to know the people working at Bru to be really no nonsense, and they're intrinsically motivated and truly committed to the cause. What really catches the eye is that it's not just focusing on the own direct impact. We do not only look at the headquarters, but there is a deep care for the sector. You can really feel this within Bru. And this is actually one of the parts why this whole collaboration for us, being future-proofed, is also really appealing and really challenging, because that sector, of course, is really impactful. If you look at the textile industry worldwide, we can link up to 10% of global emissions directly and indirectly to the textile industry. And although, of course, the biggest share is linked to fashion industry, there is still also quite a big impact from upholstery and household fabrics. And although that impact is smaller and a bit more limited, it is still there. It is still considerable in size. And we still have to do what we can in order to reduce that impact. And by doing so, there are also a lot of opportunities, as Jason has shown within the quadrant. There are different aspects where we actually have some opportunities as well. We know Bru as being really data-driven. They want to start from what they know. They want to measure what they can and act from that. And from that whole trajectory, we learned that not the own direct impact is the biggest impact, but of course, the biggest impact lies throughout the value chain, as said, the production of the fabrics and so forth, which takes place, of course, at supplier side, also on other parts of the value chain. Hence, Bru's motivation to share this knowledge, and I think this webinar is already a great starting point in that, to really educate, let's say, but spread the knowledge learned and the lessons learned throughout this whole trajectory. And I think that's quite an important final remark, is that this is not the beginning of a project which has a clear end. It's more of the start of a never-ending journey, we could say. Sustainability will never be finished. We will always be able to improve. But something very important is that none of us can fight climate action, for example, alone. None of us will be able to solve social rights alone. We will all have to collaborate on this. Each will have to do their part, his part, but we can then, if we do so correctly, all benefit from this. At Futureproof, we're happy to stay on board with this, stay on the side of Bru, to challenge them, to offer them some external advice, also some detailed insights on the carbon footprint. And I personally also look forward to keep being challenged myself within this project, something I really like. Given the large turn up, I do hope that a lot of people here also understand that sustainability is a true need and find some motivation within the webinar, which we will see now, and also feel the need to act. Gary, with this, I'll hand the floor back to you.
Thank you, Steph. And we will go to the next poll. The next poll is, have you engaged any external expertise to help achieve your sustainability vision? So have you used any companies externally outside your own company to come up with your sustainability vision and strategy? And I see this time we have fewer responses, so come on, ladies and gentlemen, please come on and give us your point of view. Be interesting to see where the different companies are. If you work for anywhere in the Bru group, the answer is yes. But otherwise, we'll wait there. We get 110 responses already. And in the last poll, we had 166, which is good. So it's great. Everybody's engaging and participating. And we see here that many companies have used their sustainability consultants or outside consultants to help them with their sustainability strategy. And hopefully, as I said before, after this, please don't answer in the chat. You can actually answer in the actual poll. So if you can't find the poll, you just scroll up in the chat and you'll see an actual poll. You just put in the yes or no and you press submit vote, and that'll come in. So because I see a lot of people have actually just answered in the actual poll itself, in the chat itself. And anyway, thank you for your responses. I see we're over 150. So we will move on in the presentation, and I'm going to hand you over to the one and only Kerry Barenser, who is our sustainability SAR at Bru Textiles, and she also plays a leading role in our marketing department. Kerry.
Thanks for the introduction, Gary, and hello everybody, and thanks for joining us today. The bulk of the rest of the presentation really is going to go into our framework and our key focus areas. Sorry, I see maybe my part of the presentation. Everybody, I hope you're seeing the framework and approach there. And what we did is, when we first started talking about sustainability, it's not a new topic within Bru, but when we first started, you would have remembered, hopefully some of you on the call, we launched our Forever Company initiative, where we had 5 key ambitions. Through growth, through meeting Steph and the future-proofed team, through our own development, we realized that we needed to weight our strategy into a far more holistic approach. And that's where we understood the framework of the SDGs, which stands for the Sustainability Development Goals. This framework was globally adopted in 2015, and as I said, it was launched by the United Nations. And the good thing that it does is it gives a global overview and a global strategy into which we can tack our efforts into. So it means that really everybody is focusing their efforts on the same things. The framework itself does comprise of 17 key focus areas, and we distilled it down into 5 where we felt we could have our greater sphere of influence. It doesn't mean to say that the other 12 have been put aside. It just means that these 5 are really where we can make our greatest impact. The other great thing about the goals themselves is even though the focus is on 5, every single one of the 17 is actually interlinked. So what we do with these 5 will have a broad impact into the 17, and that happens on a local and a global scale. These 5 are going to be unpacked in the next part of the presentation, but as you can read on the screen, the focus has been on SDG 8, which is decent work and economic growth, SDG 12, which is about responsible production and consumption, a key in our industry, SDG 13, climate action, a core anchor point to our entire strategy. If we're not changing our output and focusing on climate change, we cannot affect the rest. SDG 16, which is about truth and transparency. So what are we promising in terms of our products? And SDG 17, the reason why we're actually all on this call today, is really anchored in partnership. So how do we share a strategy together? I'm going to hand over to Jason now.
Thank you, Kerry. So as Kerry introduced the SDGs, I just also pasted an image in the chat for everybody of the 17 in case anyone hasn't heard of the SDGs, then you can see all 17. Of those 5, you can't focus on all 17 together. So of those 5, we started to focus on, so of those 17, we focused on 5. And what we consider to be one of the most important SDG that we want to focus is SDG 13, which is about taking climate action. This is all about CO2 emissions, the carbon footprint of companies, and how do we, what our approach has been to this. So I think for all companies around the world, this is directly related to global warming. Each year, the yearly average temperature on the planet increases, and we see adverse weather conditions, and therefore around the world, I had the news on last night for a change, and I think there was hurricanes and floods in 5 different locations in the world yesterday. So I'm not here on this whole mission, but it is very relevant, and that's something we have to address, and we have to take our responsibility. So in order to really, once we unpackage the vision of what sustainability to us at Brew, we really wanted to measure, well, what are the real facts behind it? It's a very difficult topic to enter, and on this part of the presentation, we'll give you some insights into what we've actually learned through what I like to call some very hardcore data analysis that's been done in the background to come to some sort of vision or picture of what our sustainability metrics are when it comes to CO2 emissions. And then obviously how we're going to take responsibility on this. It's very clear here when you look at this that there are, out of the 100% of CO2 emissions which our company are related to, and this, what does that 100% mean? 100% for us means that all the CO2 emissions which are embedded in the production of our products. So even though we are not producing the products in our own factories, we're taking responsibility for the CO2 emissions caused for the production of our products in our partner suppliers who are supplying us. In sustainability, very often companies are only responsible for the emissions they cause. We've taken a bigger picture view that we need to use our circle of influence in influencing our manufacturers to lower the carbon footprint of their products, which we take very seriously. So as we can see from this metric, 83% of the CO2 emissions caused by our business, what we consider to be the business activities we are responsible for, are the carbon embedded in the products. For those of you who have not really gone down the rabbit hole of CO2 emissions and everything else, the carbon embedded in the products is virtually all the energy used in the production of the product. One now doesn't realize that the textile manufacturing facilities, whether it's creating fiber, whether it's creating yarn, whether it's weaving fabric, whether it's dyeing the fabric, there's a lot of energy which is used at all those parts of the production process of a textile product. And in a simple form, the CO2 emissions or the carbon footprint of a product are the energy, the CO2 emissions caused by the energy, which is electricity or other forms of energy which has gone into the production through heating, through all the other aspects. So 83% of the emissions that our business is responsible for are embedded in the product, which is caused by the energy used in the production of the product. I tried to keep that as simple as possible, and I think that is the biggest insight we got from this whole sustainability process, was that actually it's all about the energy used in the production of the products or our business activities. Only 1% of our CO2 emissions is caused by the operations. So that's our direct operations, the energy used in our buildings, the travel we are doing, etc. The next biggest chunk is transport. 16% of all emissions that we are involved in are related to both inbound and outbound transport. So here again, we haven't just looked at inbound transport, which technically a lot of companies will look at when they look at their CO2 emissions. We've also focused very heavily on our outbound emissions. So because if we can have solutions which can reduce those outbound emissions, then we're having a great effect, and we don't have to just put it on our customers' heads to take that responsibility. How did we? So I probably spoke a lot about this slide anyway, but the impact of CO2 emissions which are in a textile product, a lot of it are created from the different processes involved in the production of the product. There's a big difference between, is it a woven product, is it a knitted product, is it piece dyed, is it yarn dyed, and all these different things are something we have to look at, and what affects the CO2, the carbon footprint of a product itself. So if we look at products, only 4% is, let's say, linked to the end use of the product and packaging. 96% again is the production in the fabric. So this metric is all about showing that the big ticket item for us, the most value we can get on our sustainability mission, is reducing the CO2 emissions that are caused by the manufacturing of the products we are selling. So that's just to highlight how we have defined a clear-cut strategy of where we can make the biggest impact to reducing CO2 emissions of our products. How did we do this? We used the Higg index. The Higg index is a tool that one has to subscribe to. It's a paid-for service, and the Higg index is what is the best, let's say, data source that's used very widely in the apparel industry for textile products. And the Higg index has all different types of metrics related to the different production processes of a product, where within the tool you can specify, is your product yarn dyed, is it piece dyed, the yarn size, the yarn counts you can put in, all the different finishing processes you can put in, and based on all of the information they have, they can give you an emission factor per product or per product composition based on those different criteria. So there was a lot of work we did in the back end of our data systems to actually map all of our products to all the different manufacturing processes, to map them to all the different emissions. There's some debate often on these emission factors that you get from platforms like the Higg Index. How do they get that? But they use their expertise and knowledge from big manufacturing organizations who've actually gone down sustainability measurements through the production processes and aggregated that into metrics, which give you a starting point. Now, the process and science behind all of this will develop as you go forward, but this is how we actually get to the figures that we've calculated what these emissions and metrics actually are. So it was a very interesting exercise doing this, and we had a lot of learnings by doing this. And what the next slide will just give you a little bit of insight into what the data looks like that comes out of this. So in our data system, we have to separate blended fabrics, so we know the right, let's say, percentage of composition based on weight. And through that, we could get to an emission factor of all the different products that are in the different compositions of our product. We also look at this, we also look at water scarcity, eutrophication, which means, other harmful substances which go into the planet based on, in the environment based on manufacturing and chemicals. And through this data, we can make really informed decisions going forward on how to choose the right products in order to reduce our impact on the planet. And you get very interesting learnings that you see the difference, the big impact recycled polyester has, which is, let's say, 20% less emissions than traditional polyester. That also caters for the recycle, reuse part of the sustainability visions. But it's really complex, hardcore data analysis that goes behind this. And we've now got this all in a data platform. And as the tools and systems evolve, we feel we can even improve this much further. So that's just to give you insights into how deep we've gone in terms of calculating what our CO2 emission we are causing and the effects of that. So now I'm going to pass you back to Kerry, who's going to give you a quick overview on our internal operations CO2 emission status for SDG 13. Thanks, Kerry. Kerry, you're on mute.
Yep. Key phrase for the past 2 years, right? Anyway, as Jason mentioned, when we did the slicing of the pie around where our emissions lay, 1%, if you'll recall, was from our corporate emissions. So everyone looks at that and goes, 1%, that's all right. But the great thing about that 1% is that 1% is not within a sphere of influence. That 1% is within our direct control. So when you have a look at what that 1% represented, the graph on the right, that's the little slice of the pie of where the emissions are coming from. And as you can see, the bulk of that is sitting within our electricity consumption. Naturally, we're not only looking at this from our own operations specifically, we're also having a look at it from our sample manufacturing facilities, so Sample King, and that of course will come into effect. Those changes and those influences will move as we progress along this journey as well. We've also made a couple of other key changes through our employees and how we can reduce those emissions. First and foremost, 25% of our current fleet is electrified with our staff vehicles. We're also wanting to shift to different mobility away from cars. Working from home and the flexibility that Brew provides there too is making sure that our emissions from an automobile perspective is low. We're shifting to our self-produced renewable energy wherever possible. You'll see in a lot of our videos, our photography, our corporate website, we have a huge amount of solar support on our business, on top of our building as well. We do have some legacy electrical, but that's also going to be phased out. So whatever we can control from an operational perspective, we most certainly are getting a handle on all of that. I am going to shift you back to Jason.
Thank you, Kerry. The next topic we want to bring to everybody's awareness, which was obviously the second biggest chunk of our freight, where we've looked at both our inbound freight from suppliers and outbound. We've calculated the total emissions involved in the movement of goods from one place to another. That is what transport is one of the world's big, let's say, CO2 emissions generators, and it's a very important part to look at that. So again, we went into quite hardcore data analysis where we calculated the kilometers traveled of all the products. Our data team did a great job on this, whether it's sea freight, air freight, courier, and all the different shipping modes. We actually have data today that we can see by customer, by country, by product range. We can actually drill down all this data. This also the data I showed you earlier. We can drill down it into all different aspects of the business and take really informed decisions about data. This led us to quite a few actions we want to take as a result. Well, one of our goals is to reduce the kilometers traveled of our products. If we go back to this slide, we see here the biggest culprit is air freight or courier. Air freight and courier is categorized as the same category. That is where we can make the most difference. Not to say we shouldn't reduce emissions in the other areas, like Kerry just mentioned, in operations, just because it's lower. But the big ticket item that we have to reduce is the amount of kilometers traveled by our products through air. And for this, we've introduced quite a few different stock management projects within Brew in order to actually reduce the amount of goods that are flown around the world. The majority of that air freight is taking place. We can actually even see it on this metric. We can see it here. The majority is taking place on the outbound freight. Only a small percentage we bring in on our inbound. So we need to find solutions that our customers can do less air freight or courier shipments. So to do this, we are optimizing transport streams. We're making sure we have good stock levels, and we're looking at different, and we're busy with testing different regional warehouse solutions so that less air freight is required. We implemented a SAP tool called IBP, which is integrated business planning, which is all about forecasting. And with this tool, we can forecast the demand of the customers based on different forecasting models, and also based on a regional basis where it would be best to try and service them from. So all these tools we are working very hard at in order to reduce the kilometers traveled of our products, and we believe transport is a really, really important part of the whole sustainability goals. Just a small fact in our analysis, air freight is 64 times more CO2 emissions per meter squared of fabric transported compared to sea freight. So air freight is 62 times more pollutant than air freight. And now I'll hand you back to Gary for the next slides.
We just got a quick poll, but I see it's been launched already. So, and it's being answered. So it's just a quick question. Do you agree that understanding, measuring your carbon footprint is important? Yes or no answer? Overwhelmingly yes. And we'll move straight on to Kerry, who will present the next slide.
Right. Thanks for that. I was a little bit quick on the trigger finger for the poll, so forgive me for that one. This is also a huge compliment. I'm sure everybody can appreciate knowing the business that Brew is. Our SDG 8, decent work and economic growth, really an integral part of our business. So having a look at some core functioning areas, so things like quality being at the heart of everything we do, the investment in our people and ensuring that there is mental wellness support, considering the past few years, and of course, in general, going forward. We've also developed programs and are busy fostering programs around inclusivity and diversity. So how do we build strong pipelines of diversity and inclusion throughout our business? Safe conditions for all, so really having a look at grounding our principles of work in KESH, which stands for our quality assurances, making sure that we are doing the right thing by our staff and by ourselves. And then another thing that's very close to our hearts, I know Gary and Jason specifically, is supporting NGOs and local communities. That happens, as I said, at a very local level, as well as broader initiatives around UNICEF and Doctors Without Borders. There's huge contribution that goes into those channels each and every year. I'm now going to hand you back to Jason.
Thanks, Kerry. The next topic that we will look at, which I'll cover very quickly because many of you have heard our whole vision on digital sampling, but we believe in terms of SDG 12, responsible production and consumption, our move towards digital sampling is a very important and sustainable way for the future of reducing the impact on sampling. While sampling is important now, it's how we sell and what we use, and we don't say there's any short-term things that we have to, that samples will not be required. But what's really important here is to understand all the different parts of the waste that goes into sample distribution. We talk about the transport of fabric to sample production. We talk about the production of samples. We talk about the fabric we use in samples. We talk about the transport of the fabrics back to the distributor, and then the transport of the samples back to brew. And then we talk about the transport of the samples to the distributors. And we talk about salespersons traveling around the world presenting samples, and our customers, salespeople presenting samples. Then we talk about the transport of the sample to the final consumer. And then we talk about the end of life of a sample. And this is, if you see all the different steps involved in the sampling chain, that's where we feel technology in the more medium term will be a great way to reduce the sustainability impact of the sampling process in our organization. So we're fully committed to continue to drive our digital twin, digital fabrics as a method to reduce our CO2 emissions. And on that note, Kerry, you will take the next topic.
ISO 14001, I'm sure a lot of you have seen it within our sampling. It's a very big message within our positioning around our collections. And that is, sorry, I'm just going to go on to the next slide here. ISO 14001 is an environmental management system. So it makes sure things like your water wastage and management, recycling at your facilities, and making sure everything that is environmentally sound is being done correctly. It's an audited process. We ourselves are going to become 14001 accredited. So that announcement will probably come later towards this year. And just making sure that everything is being done in accordance to a sound management system. Again, in line with our responsible production and consumption, our own operations outside of ISO 14001, we're also quite paperless in terms of our reduce, reuse, repurpose, recycle initiatives, making sure that everything that we receive is within recycled packaging, and everything we ship outside of our warehouse also goes in recycled componentry. Just an important fact also, and just quickly back to ISO 14001, 95% of our current collections that are new are ISO 14001 accredited. And over the next short period of the next 2 to 3 years, we will be ensuring that all our legacy collections are also produced in ISO 14001 accredited molds. I'm now going to hand back to Gary.
Thank you, Kerry. Thank you, Kerry. I'd just like to make one correction there. 100% of our new fabrics are ISO 14001 certified, and 95% of existing fabrics are ISO 14001 certified. Just to be clear on that one. And we'll go into the next poll. And are you engaged in any reduce, reuse, recycle, and repurpose initiatives? And there's the poll. You can put a yes or no, submit. And due to time constraints, we're going to go straight on. You can carry on answering the poll, and we'll go straight on to the next slide. And I'll just quickly go through our current eco standards that we're using at Brew, which should be very familiar. But anyway, I'll quickly go through them. We've just mentioned the ISO 14001, that every supplier now of a new fabric has to be ISO 14001 certified. We are completely REACH compliant, which is a European EU standard of chemical use in products. We completely REACH compliance. 100% of all our fabrics are OEKO-TEX standard 100 compliant, meaning there's no harmful substances or chemicals that go into the environment or can be emitted to people or pets during use. We are global recycle standard certified. Global recycle standard is a standard that's used to certify recycled yarn in the fabric. And then we are also organic content standard certified. There's two standards. 100 is for 95 to 100% organic, and anything that's more than 5% organic, we certified for both. And by next year, 60% of our new products will be either organic or global recycle standard. 60% of our new products. And I will hand you over to
yourself.
Myself, yeah. Okay, so what it's all about, what this webinar was all about, is about forging relationships with you, our customers, you, our suppliers, you, our agents, you, our employees, on coming with us on this journey and building your sustainability strategy around or in connection or in partnership with us. It's a very tough subject to face, and it's like I don't know where to start. And the whole thing is, we're going to share our playbook with you. We invite our competitors to come too, and we're going to share our playbooks with you. We'll share with you exactly what we're doing, and we hope that you can be inspired to come on this journey together with us. And of course, we will share our learnings, which I'm going to give you over to Jason to sum up on that.
Yeah. So as Gary mentioned to you, we feel the biggest impact we can have in our sustainability is to actually share our learnings that we have done with our whole business community, whether you're a customer, supplier, or competitor. We welcome any of you to come talk to us. We will share these playbooks we are talking about, which are all about, we've launched 3 playbooks already. One, how to understand and calculate your carbon footprint and step to reduce it. We have a playbook on responsible consumption and using the Higg index to calculate and manage fabric selection, and sustainability understanding for labor practices, diversity, and inclusion. So these 3 playbooks we've already launched. Here's just a quick screenshot. On our website, www.brewtex.com, if you go to our sustainability page, you can actually capture and download these playbooks from our website. And these are steps, so it doesn't matter who you are in the textile world. We welcome anybody to collaborate, use our content, and we plan to not use any of this as IP or let's say for our own commercial benefit. If we really want to have a big impact on the planet, we need to share it with as many people as we can. And if our best practices can make a big difference, it means we have done a good job in what we are doing. So we urge all of our customers, suppliers, and anybody else who gets to see this presentation to look at the data, look at how we've done it, and we offer any feedback. We will be continuing to expand on these playbooks as we go forward. So the 3 we've created were part of the the three main areas we've been focusing, and as we focus on other areas, we will be launching other playbooks. So go to our site, the link is in the chat, and read our sustainability commitment and everything around that. So I'll pass you on to Gary for a closing note.
Thank you to everybody for joining us. There was over 250 people who actually came on to the live version. Kerry's going to be distributing a recorded version to everybody, and will also to the people who missed the live version. I want once again, thanks a lot for joining, and there will be a video within 2 weeks, great sustainability video, which we will share with you, and you can share through your own communities and circles. Thank you very much, and we'll see you all soon.
Bye-bye, everyone. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you, everybody.